Sue Stockdale, and welcome to the 4th series of Access to Inspiration, the podcast series where you can be inspired by people who may be unlike you. We hope that their stories and insights help you to transcend your day-to-day challenges and reflect on what you are capable of achieving. Thanks for continuing to send us your feedback about the impact that these podcasts are having on your work and your life. It's really heartening for us to know that they are making a positive difference. And you may recall that in the final episode of Series 3, adventurer Paul Rose talked about the importance of being useful. Well, he has put his idea into action and agreed to be our first Access to Inspiration ambassador, helping us to spread the message of the podcast to a wider audience. We thank you, Paul, for your ongoing support. Another key member of our team is Matías de Ezcurra, who edits our podcasts and makes them sound great. Matías, who lives in Argentina, talked to me about his work, which involves more than just editing podcasts. And I was also curious to find out if the podcasts have an inspirational effect on him. So tell us, what is your job when you're being a sound designer? What does it involve?
Well, actually, sound designer job involves a lot of things, but my work involves much more things. For example, I play the cello, so I teach cello. That's part of my job. I studied electroacoustic composition in university. While I was studying music and I was playing, I never thought I could make a living from playing. Then you see that you can, but there are different ways to do it. But I started working in editing sound, mainly for television and then for movies. And then 2 years ago, I found these sites like People Per Hour, like Upwork, where you can work online and to a lot of places in the world. And then I started editing podcasts, and my field of work expanded a lot. It became anything that is related to sound editing or creating effects or editing music or playing, or mainly is that I edit sound in different ways. And the other half of my day is I teach cello. I give lessons in the music school here. And with all of that, I make my living. I always enjoyed doing different things and learning different things. When I was younger, I was learning. I thought, should I focus just in playing music? Should I focus just in sound? I studied engineering first for a couple of years before deciding to go into composition. But as they are all related, so far I've managed to keep it like that.
So really, sound is at the heart of everything that you're doing, whether it's teaching cello, whether it's editing film soundtracks, editing podcasts. Sound is at the heart of what you're doing. I guess I'm wondering, when you're listening to sound, what does it evoke within you?
That's a good question. When I started studying composition, it was electroacoustic composition. And in that kind of music, you focus in sound itself. It's not focusing just in notes or in melodies. It focuses on the sound itself. So I studied sound, and we studied how the ear works and how the physics of the sound work. And I was fascinated by it. Just the idea of air particles vibrating, and at some point something hit something else, and that vibration was transformed in different ways until it got to your ear, and your brain makes some interpretation, and you hear something and you feel something. Then a lot of things happen, and then they become something completely different inside every person. You will hear something and you will feel something, and I will feel something else just by a sound, depending on your experiences.
What I'm hearing is your fascination with the process of how sound is created and the effect it has on the recipient.
Yes, I was always fascinated by that. When I studied electroacoustic composition, then I started to realize I was really fascinated by sound itself. But then you keep on studying, and then you lose a little bit of that feeling. And that's why I started saying once in a while I think about that, because those sensations are the ones that I think we shouldn't lose. Those feelings that get you started at something. I had that passion for sound, and then different ways. I played the guitar and whatever I did, but not to lose that feeling, that original feeling, that passion. I think that's really important. And I think that's something that's in your podcast a lot.
And you're absolutely right. That's what we're aiming to do, is to instill the passion or the belief in somebody else that drives them to take action, to do something different. And it sounds like from your early experiences in sound that you were motivated to want to learn more about it.
That's right.
So when you've been listening whilst editing the Access to Inspiration podcasts, Matías, what has struck you about any of the episodes you've heard? What's caused you to perhaps reflect differently about things?
I think that mainly this feeling, because, well, as the name of your podcast is, and I think that that's what you're aiming for in every interview, all the people that appear in your podcast, they all have this feeling I was mentioning, right? They have this passion and they have this search. You don't hear them saying, well, this is just my job and that's all. No, they are looking for something else, always looking for something else. I think that's crucial in life. We should always be looking for something else and looking to enjoy as far as we can, because we have different situations and sometimes it's harder than others. But as long as we can, be looking for something else. That feeling, I think, is really important. In fact, lately that I have maybe more choice with the work I do, I try to choose projects that have this kind of feeling. I am right now editing 2 or 3 other podcasts in a regular basis, and they all have this inspiration message. It's something I like because it's not just editing an interview, but it's being part of something else. While I edit, I also get that message. So it's inspiring me, and I'm being part of a team that is also helping to inspire other people. So that, as a general thing, I think is really important.
So the essence of what you're hearing is having an inspirational effect on you as you're listening to the podcasts.
Yes, that's right.
I'm sure our listeners are pleased to learn a bit more about you, Matías, and the work that you do. And please keep up the good work in editing these podcasts. It's been great to speak to you.
Thank you, Sue. It's a pleasure for me to take part in this team, and I really appreciate it.
Now, looking forward to the upcoming series, there are 2 themes that stand out from all of the episodes, which are sustainability and pioneering. I think that the COVID pandemic has caused many people to reevaluate how they live their lives. And it has been a wake-up call for us to address some of the bigger societal issues, such as how we interact with one another, how we consume resources, and how we reconnect with nature. Some of our guests in this upcoming series talk about these topics. Navi Radjou is a leadership thinker whose TED Talk on frugal innovation has been viewed over 2 million times. He has some fascinating thoughts on how we need to reinvent how we live and work. We also have Anne Plun van Eysden, who is transforming the stationery industry by making paper from rocks. She founded her company in 2015 to create an alternative and more sustainable approach to how paper is manufactured. And I'll also be speaking to farmer Jonathan Cook, whose regenerative farming approach influences how he operates as a dairy farmer. John believes that we need to reconnect with nature to better understand where our food comes from.
I think everybody should grow at least one crop. Even if it's in a window box, grow a crop of potatoes, just one. You know, if you've got a garden, have 2 chickens. Best waste disposal system you will ever have, and you get eggs. And they'll be the best eggs you've ever had. What could be better?
Besides these guests, we have several pioneers, people who have led the way in their field of endeavour. The first is Major Becky Frater. Becky is a military helicopter pilot and was the first woman to lead the Royal Navy helicopter display team, the Black Cats. And we also speak to Nontuthuko Mgahbi, the first African female to run 7 marathons on 7 continents on 7 consecutive days. A mammoth effort, I'm sure. I asked Nontu how she believed that she could do such an achievement.
You know, so truth is, you can never know 100% that you can do it. You just got to get to a point where you actually don't demonize fear. You do things afraid. You experience both emotions of courage and emotions of being nervous. And you accept them as deeply human as they are, because they are deeply human. So first, for sure, believe in yourself. And number 2, it's about understanding that courage, like Brené Brown puts it beautifully, it's actually not about winning or losing. So I got to a point where before I registered for the race, I was like, am I sure? Am I sure I can do that? And then I got to a point where I said, I don't need to be sure. Courage is not about finishing these marathons or not. It's about showing up. And right now I'm deciding to show up. Once you see it as an opportunity just to show up, then you just do that. You show up.
I hope that this preview has given you a taste of what's to come, and that you will enjoy these amazing stories from people around the world. Look out for the first in the new series next week, where I will talk to Navi Radjou about consciously reinventing how we live and work.